I want to talk a little bit about your experience going on Joe Rogan, in which you discussed your use of ivermectin as a drug, but you also said you took Viagra before you went on. What was that experience like for you? I did initially go on the Joe Rogan podcast to discuss the drug ivermectin. What ended up happening was quite different because I did take a Viagra before going on, and that proved to be quite challenging. Remember, sitting for 3 hours, sustaining an erection, was a bit uncomfortable. There's no doubt about it.
How can you overall assess the holistic experience of being erect for basically the entire podcast and the whole show? And did Joe know about it?
You know, one has to be very careful in assessing whether or not it is a good idea to interact with certain drugs before engaging in an intellectual discussion with someone like Joe.
What was his reaction?
Joe asks, poignant questions. The conversation was constructive and productive, but remember, it was a 3-hour discussion, and I could barely stand up.
Wow.
Now, I will say that while the majority of our discussion was about ivermectin and its effects biologically as it pertains to COVID, and it's important to note, I did have another virologist with me who is very prestigious, but while on the Viagra drug, I did not experience any COVID symptoms. Now, that is not to say that they are in any way causal, but the correlation is there and it's worth exploring. Now, we need to be very careful.
In a way, it's kind of beautiful.
It is beautiful. I mean, so the podcast was difficult. It was hard, very hard, no pun intended, obviously. At the end of the day, when it comes to taking Viagra before going on a podcast like Joe's, I do not recommend it.
Okay.
It is certainly dangerous.
It's also impressive.
I think it's important to note and to be very clear that just because something is dangerous, that doesn't mean it's harmful.
Wow, that's beautiful.
I still don't recommend it.